welcome to the Wild Moon Sessions podcast. My name is Bexy, I am your host, and today I am talking to Jodie Chinn, who is actually based in Barcelona. I met Jodie a few years ago whilst we were both working on a teenage art national project in London. We actually met at the Tate Modern in London.
A few days ago.
But we've kept in touch ever since, little soul sisters from those places, I feel. And she is an artist. She's also an artist that is cultivating deep conversation, and I absolutely love what she does. All about community, all about cultivating meaningful conversation and what can come from that in an artistic and creative sense. So Jodie, do you want to introduce yourself and say hello?
Hello. Yes, I would say I'm an artist, but it's a very I use that word because it gives me total freedom, I feel, to kind of do whatever I want, and then say it's called art. So yeah, but a lot of my work does a lot of my work is around, I guess at the basis, about communication and connection, and kind of exploring those things. So often it does exist in the live experience, and that's kind of the focus for it.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Like what you've just said about communication and connection, they are such Gemini themes as well. Like we're in the middle of the Gemini lunar eclipse and some major Mercury energies, which is lovely. So communication and connection, that is all about it, isn't it? I feel like we're in that moment too, which is that's a beautiful sync. I would love for you to tell us about your most recent project with the Re-Enchanting reading group. Tell us a little bit about that and what your intention is, I guess, or what has become a surprise, or anything that's kind of come through from that process of communication and connection.
Well, I read that book, Re-Enchanting the World by Silvia Federici, who I love. I read Caliban and the Witch a few years ago, and her work is amazing. This one, Re-Enchanting the World, is about, as most of her work is about capitalism and kind of the way it's dividing us, and the awful things that it's done in the past to become what it is now and what it's still doing, and especially in terms of the way it is going in to people's bodies, I guess, and dividing us around the world. And so this book is kind of looking more now. The previous one was about the last 500 years, about how we can actually start, or how people already are re-enchanting the world from the idea of disenchantment being capitalism. And it felt like it was such an inspiring book to read, and I read a lot of books for my practice, and I kind of didn't want to just leave it there. And I was kind of thinking, what kind of project could I do from it? And then my main thing that came to me was I just want to do a reading group with it and kind of explore it more, because it is quite academically heavy in some, and there's quite a lot of things that I don't understand, or so I started doing that and just kind of saw it as a side thing on my practice. But actually more and more I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm becoming more and more, realizing more and more things about what my practice is, which it is the subtlety of communication and connection, which can be very subtle, that drives my work. And this particular reading group is no different, I don't think. So I have an online group and an in-person group, and we are very slowly going through the book, but also using ideas in the book of re-enchantment, embodying those ideas in the way we're discussing things. So using creativity and coming together in a way which feels really beautiful, and like sharing ideas and personal things, not just like a kind of academic study of the book. So yeah, it's been really beautiful, and we're about halfway through now, but it just brought some really amazing people together as well, so it just feels, every time we do it, feels so inspiring.
Yeah, I bet. And what's kind of if you were to identify like one of your favorite things that have come about or have developed out of these conversations on re-enchantment, what do you think it would be? Like what is the most valuable to you? Or
I think it is just the simplicity of the kind of communication and connection that comes from discussing these things with people and like bringing people together. And it's kind of I know quite a few of the people, like some of them are my very good friends, but actually some of them are new, but the way that we're discussing it, it just feels like we immediately become very close, even people that we don't know, that I didn't know. And also just like the beauty of the slowness, because I'm someone who can be very impatient. So I'm like, I've got all these books to read, I just need to read it. And actually realizing that we're only halfway through. We started in March, and this is going to take quite a few more months to read just one book. And like the beauty of that slow process and everything that has come from it has like taught me a lot about patience and like the value of being slower.
Yeah, and the value of being present with that part of the text, I would imagine. It's almost like a practice in and of itself, isn't it? To
exactly.
really let it sink in and let it explore your body almost. It's like you're asking for a response, whereas often I'm thinking of this anyway, when I read a book, I'm digesting information. It's kind of going in and through rather than having that reciprocal nature to it, which it definitely has, doesn't it?
Yeah, because often as well, when I read books, especially academic books, I find that the information goes very quickly out of me. So I will feel really, especially with those two books, Silvia Federici's work, they really kind of alter my perception of the world, and I start to feel very angry and like, it's just really showing you how the structures of our society works, and it gets you so angry. And it is a lot, it's also kind of the focus is also feminism, as well as other things, but I didn't mention that before. So yeah, and then reading it very slowly just helps you to remember parts of it and keep things with you, because you develop experiences and through the conversations you have and connections with other people, which then you kind of hold for longer, or perceptions.
Well, I think it's really inspirational, the idea of having a community that you are cultivating, but you're cultivating deep conversations automatically about the world around you, and that can help people process reality, can't it? It can help people really be companions for each other whilst that's happening as well. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. And one of my biggest beliefs is that I am here for the companionship of humans. I love humans. There was a time in my life where I thought, because of all of the structural notions that are in our societies and things like this, and the way that the world is structured and the politics and all of that sort of stuff, I almost like dissociated and thought, I actually prefer animals. Like, I'm not going to lie, but actually in my heart, I know that that's not true. I love all beings, and I want to be able to have that companionship with other humans. I think it's so healing, healing, and obviously animals are very healing as well. But this idea of being each other's companions through the uncomfortable stuff, that is such huge medicine for each other. And I think this is where community is so important, and what you are doing is that will actually have such a huge ripple effect.
Exactly, because we we've just finished the first section, which is more about what awful things are currently happening now, in terms of how capitalism is still enclosing land, separating people from their modes of production, etc., etc. And yeah, sometimes, well, most of the time so far, the things we're reading are extremely depressing and can make you feel so just stuck and almost want to just give up and be like, there's nothing I can do, like this little tiny person. But actually, we haven't necessarily been like, right, what can we do? But when it has come up, we're like, even this little tiny group feels like something, because we're sharing this information which we're not taught at school about how our system works and all the awful things that it's still doing and has done. And then obviously that will spread out to the people around each person involved. And so even in a small way, it feels like this reading group is a small answer to fighting against this. And also for me as well, one thing is, in our society we're really taught to like compete against each other, and I've definitely had this sometimes. If I'm reading academic text, I feel very like, I don't understand this, what's wrong with me? Maybe not so much now, partly because of this, but kind of just letting go and being like, every single person has their own experiences, their own understanding and knowledge, and opening yourself up to just listening. A group of 5 people as opposed to one automatically knows 5 more times amount of things and has 5 more times experience. So naturally, reading a book like this between more people is going to have more insights. They're not thinking it all needs to come within you, and being open to connecting with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you've just mentioned, first of all, I think it's an act of empowerment actually to come together in community in that way. And I think that when people are overwhelmed by what's going on, my biggest thing, and this, I offered like loads of free ecstatic dance classes at the beginning of lockdown last year to help people to literally move their bodies through all of the energies that were happening, because actually it's very overwhelming, but being in overwhelm is actually not great for your nervous system necessarily. It doesn't help you regulate. There are all of these byproducts of media and extra information that, yes, it's good to be aware of them, but it's also good to know how to empower yourself so that you know how you want to act from an authentic place. And I think that's amazing, like to be able to come together and have that level of empowerment. I know that a lot of people that I did my dance classes with were overjoyed that they were able to do it, because they felt so different when they were walking out of the class. So it's a beautiful thing. And just secondly, I think that what you said about everybody has this whole host of experiences, and that's such a profound, that's life, isn't it? That's the profound profundity of life. And I think that's also why I'm doing this. I love to hear about people's experiences, because actually stories, and each person's stories, everybody's is valid. Everybody's experience is valid. And actually part of us expressing it is part of being here and being witnessed and being acknowledged and seen. And I think whether that's in a small community together, whether it's in a bigger community together, it's fundamental to our being as a human. And I think actually I read a book a while ago now by Tom Shadyac, and he talks about how we are always told that in the natural world it's all about competition. The natural state of being is competition, when actually it's not.
No, not at all.
It's all about cooperation.
Yeah, because otherwise the animals will have done what we've done and become completely unbalanced, and nature
or monopolize things that aren't theirs necessarily. There is a very, very fine-tuned musical instrument at the center of everything, and it all has to stay completely balanced, and they inherently know this. So I think this kind of returning to this sense of cooperation, but also opening our hearts to be able to receive other people's experiences, however uncomfortable, however difficult it might be to hear. That is such a profound act.
Exactly. And it feels kind of simple, but when you really think about it, like what you're saying, yeah, it is actually, it's defying what these books are describing, which is that we have become closed and divided and closed in our communities, but also in our own bodies, against our own bodies, and how opening up and not being in competition, and acknowledging the beauty of sharing with different people is like, a very big thing to do in this society.
Oh, it's huge.
Which is doing everything it can to stop that.
Yeah, but I think leave them to do that, but I'm going to do, when you think about, if we think about like vibrational energy and we think about what vibrates the furthest, our hearts are our biggest electromagnetic force in our bodies. People think it's our brains. It's not, it's our hearts. And actually, when you activate that, when you feel as though you're connecting with somebody that's in Barcelona that's nowhere near you, or halfway across the world, you are absolutely doing that, because the electromagnetic field of your heart is so powerful. And I think that when you come to this place of, that's what I mean, like love and authenticity, and absolutely opening your heart in a way that grows compassion and gratitude for whatever is, and however you can be there to witness other people in their process, I think that is the biggest act of love that you can possibly offer to the world. Because actually, from everything that I've seen and heard and experienced in my life and in my experience, it's the one thing that people are most uncomfortable about doing. And it's the one thing that this world needs the most. When people are having traumatic experiences, they absolutely need that companionship, that moment that is just about them, and that is, for me, that's going to exceed any thought program that somebody is trying to, I don't know, assert, shall we say. That's more important than anything. Because if you come from a place of love and authenticity and growing love, and this is one of my dreams, like I just want to be here to grow love, be love, spread love, and grow love within myself, grow love within you, have that lovely interaction. That is the highest calling that I could ever end to,
and these things are so subtle and can't be put into words or anything. Well, not necessarily always subtle, but our society doesn't value those things. So it's having confidence in the value of that is also a big thing.
Yeah, and I wanted to also ask you about, with that, your Vipassana that you've just completed. Like, what was, when I think about sitting in meditation for such a long time and in silence, I can't imagine the process in your body, but also in your mind. And it's something that I feel really drawn to do. But tell me more about that, because I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I got back from the Vipassana retreat 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and it was 10 days, 10 hours a day in silence. We could talk to, like once a day to the kind of teachers. So for the first few days, I maybe was speaking a tiny amount, but it's more about not having kind of mundane or a conversation which is a discussion which is very specific, like about the practice was fine, but everything else no. And it was amazing, because I've meditated for a few years, but maybe half an hour a day for a while, recently more like 10 minutes, but never for that long. And I had some incredible, it was very difficult, as you can imagine, but I had so many amazing kind of little revelations or feelings and things that naturally it's kind of faded a bit, obviously, over since coming back into real life, but I still think there are things that are have stayed and I want to carry on, like, cultivating. yeah, it was just amazing it feels like everyone should do this at some point in their lives. Maybe not necessarily Vipassana, but like this experience of it was like studying your own body, and therefore humans, like how humans experience, well, the human experience, I guess. And it was just amazing, because after a few days your mind starts to go a lot quieter, and you become much more aware because you aren't having any new inputs all the time. And yeah, just it was like properly going in and experiencing my body, and like the mind, the matter, how they're connected, how my own personal mind and matter work, how humans' mind and matter work. And it was a really, really interesting experience.
That sounds so beautiful, and so in sync actually with a lot of the experiences that I have, and a session that I offer, which is body mapping. It helps people to go into that meditative state and be able to actually map their body in terms of what they hold in what place, and that mind matter, you know, little I always describe it as like stardust, and it lights up in certain places and it's a bit dark in others, and you kind of go in and see what it's like. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it also reminds me of when I did my ecstatic awakening dance training. I came back into real life. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't be in a room with television. I was so open and so activated and in touch that it took me 2 weeks to come back to reality, at least.
Yeah, and it's weird because I guess there's a slight I don't know if it's a problem, but it's almost like taking a drug, but the effects lasting for a really long time, like much longer than a drug. And then the kind of coming back to real life is kind of a little bit sad in a way, because the first week I was like so open, felt so in my body, and like feeling of love, and then naturally it's kind of faded a bit, but yeah, I think I can still access those things in ways that I couldn't do before. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's like it's so simple as well, and the way they describe it is like getting back in line, or recognizing the nature inside yourself, which is so beautiful, because the reality is we are nature, and we're not aware of that a lot of the time, which is a very strange thing when you think about it, but it's true. So yeah, I've definitely started to feel that more, which is really nice, and it definitely links so much with my practice to do with communication and connection. So yeah, I'm sure it will seep into my practice as how it seeped into my life.
It reminds me of all the micellar networks, you know, these little mushroom networks that are happening under all of the roots of the trees. Like, that's what we are doing when we are conversing. They converse, we converse, we make things efficient, we, you know, help each other grow. This is all much one and the same, isn't it? It's all the same. And I love the fact that you're saying that we are nature. We covered that in one of the other podcasts, because yes, we are, and we must claim that. We must celebrate that as much as possible. I also wanted to ask you. Go on.
I was going to say, it's almost like I feel like I'm inside myself now, whereas before it was like you were a bit more of an observer of the world, and now it's like, no, I am the world. It's kind of like you've just got into your body. So yeah, it's been amazing. I want to carry on exploring meditation for sure.
I think the beauty of being able to bow to the universe and the world within yourself is so profound, because you realize that, you know, terms like manifestation or all these things that you think could be external, actually they're not, they're internal. And it's all about that rolling energy and how you make this beautiful environment and chasm of love really for yourself. You know, it's all about that. And that's what I love about this channel, is that I want to be able to empower people to be able to have these conversations and really think, you know, maybe I'll go and do a Vipassana, or maybe I'll go go for an ecstatic dance, or like whatever it is. I just feel very drawn, and therefore would love to experience it. So one thing I did want to ask you about as well, Jodie, was your project that you are going to be working on, to do with interviewing women all over the world, and just connecting in with them. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, I read this book called, I realized a lot of my work is inspired by reading books. So again, I read this book called Talking to Women, by Nell Dunn from the 1960s. And it was quite radical at its time, that she was simply having conversations. It wasn't even, it could be seen as an interview, but it was kind of in a relaxed way, normally with people she knew. I think there's 9 or 10 interviews in the book. And they're so inspiring. It's lots of questions, some very big questions about life, some just like things about the big ideas in life, and also the very mundane parts of life. And it's so interesting and inspiring, because there was a lot of inspiring things in there, but also it was really interesting to see how much has changed for women since then. And that, so it's more, I think it's more of a personal project, because it's more looking at all the people that have come to me in my life, or I have around me in my life. And after reading that, I've always been aware of, I have all these incredible people in my life, like how amazing is that? And they inspire me so much. But through this book, I want to be inspired by the structure of this book, and I'm taking questions that she's used, but kind of personalizing them for each person I'm going to interview. And I'm basically interviewing my friends using this technique and seeing, to kind of capture, because in this book, most of them are around their mid 20s or 30s, and I am, and most of my friends are. So also capturing us and our ideas and what we're doing at this moment in time. And also interesting, connected to the pandemic, like how maybe people have changed, or their ideas have changed during this year that we've had.
Of course. And again, it's I think that's a really beautiful thing, to be able to capture a point in time. I think it's so important. It is also that's another thing that I feel like we are here to do. We're here to kind of express what it is to be alive at this moment. That's a beautiful thing to be able to do. And what's like an example of one of the questions that Silvia, did you say?
No, Nell.
Nell.
Let me think, because I've got it here. There's loads. I think I actually, because I've used quite a few of her questions, but also my own. So I think I've got probably about 100 questions, and then each person I change what I kind of, from what I know about them, what I want to get out of them.
I understand.
It'll be things like, does passion mean anything to you? Do you ever feel lonely? So many things. What makes you the most angry?
So interesting. I guess.
Do you ever resent the time you spend looking nice? Lots. Kind of very simple questions, almost feeling a bit like a child's question, but they're the best.
Simplicity, simple explorations of. I feel like they're almost the conversations that we realize that we're having, but we don't know how important they are sometimes.
Exactly. And I think that, in the introduction to the book, they talk about this, like, it is the simplicity of conversation, and how lots of people dismiss that, but actually it's so important. And I guess that's what I want to shine a light on. And also it depends on the exact moment that it happens, what's happened in that day for me and the person I'm interviewing, where we are. It's all about that present moment, and that also affects exactly what happens in the conversation. So
One question I wanted to ask you, if anybody's really interested in coming and joining the Re-Enchanted reading group or coming and working with you, how would they get in contact with you, or is there an opportunity to join another version of one of your projects?
Well, I guess Instagram is probably the best way.
Yes.
Chinn with 2 N's. And well, we're halfway through the book, but people could join if they wanted. If someone's based in Barcelona, they can come to the in-life one, and if not, online. But also what I would love maybe even more, although I'd love someone to join, would be people do their own versions, you know, like, so you could ask me for advice on what we've done with ours, but yeah, people starting new ones and spreading it out would be even more amazing.
No, yeah, that's beautiful. One thing I wanted to ask you as well, do you find any difference between the physical and the online? Like, is there a big difference in your experience with that, or is it quite consistent, or just a different format of expression? How do you
I haven't quite managed to work out how to put it into words yet, but I initially, because I'm very like the project Inspired by Talking to Women, one of my points is I want to do it in real life with the person. So it's probably going to be quite a long-term project because there's people all over the place that I want to talk to. So I originally thought, I wasn't really totally keen on the online one, but then there were quite a few people interested. So I was like, okay, we'll try it. And actually, both of them have been so beautiful, but in kind of different ways. I still don't quite know how to describe what ways, but in what ways, but I was really surprised by how beautiful the online one was as well. We do a little meditation at the beginning normally, and I kind of say, imagine or feel yourself sat on the world and that we're all on this world as well. So kind of like trying to make sure we're aware. We don't have this thing that, oh, you're a little person on a screen. It's like we're all actually out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I just, every single person that comes brings their own experience and their own like way of seeing things. So it's just also the quality of the people that are there. Of course, every single person that comes will bring their own thing, like I said. So it made me aware that, yeah, online has a lot of potential for beautiful sharing, like sharing beautiful moments and experiences in a way that I didn't realize before. But of course, the in-person one is also really beautiful because we've been taking it in turns to do a little kind of ritual or creative thing at the end as well. So that allows for more. That's not quite as easy on the online one, but maybe it's just because we haven't pushed it as much. But yeah, that's been really beautiful as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
People.
Yeah, and I think just to echo that, I've definitely experienced lots of very beautiful connection via technology over the past year, and actually it's enriched me so much. And that's also why I think that these conversations, whether you're listening to it in the car driving somewhere, or whether you just going for a walk and feel like you would like some companionship in some way, these conversations are there being had, and that's why it's beautiful to be able to share them. And I will say, physical is different. It's different for our bodies, isn't it? We get like a different feeling. It's a different thing for our nervous system. It's a different thing for our bodies, because we co-regulate each other constantly when we're physically around each other. But I would be fascinated to know if we do that when we're online with each other, because I definitely feel there's some sort of, and like I say, when your heart is in its authentic place and it's expressing, and it ripples so far anyway, so
yeah. And I think
like
the power of voice, like the voice is so provokes so much emotion, and so it expresses so many things that naturally that it also affects each of our bodies.
Beautiful.
And also I think one thing for me is just being more aware of the magic of the internet, and even though it has so many negatives and as everything does in life, positives and negatives, it's actually something amazing and like completely magic about it. If you use it in the right way.
I totally agree. And I'm actually gonna end on that lovely positive note, because it's such a great note to end on. So if you have any questions or would like to contact Jodie, I will leave her Instagram details down in the description. And please do make sure that you subscribe to this channel to support and continue this connection and communication, and all of these love vibes. So until next time, I'm wishing you the best day. Thank you so much for your time, Jodie. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
And thank you for your listening time. Take care of you for now.